accidentally letting my sister's friends I have a crunchy vegan baby? To preface, I do not have a crunchy vegan baby, and I think this is mostly a misunderstanding. My daughter is 6 months old and breastfed. I am vegan, my husband isn't, and our toddler is vegetarian/vegan-ish. He doesn't like animal dairy but will ravish eggs. We don't cook meat in the home, although my husband eats it out of the home, and our toddler isn't a fan. Before anyone jumps on my ass, he has been introduced to it because his dad eats it. He just prefers fries. Same, kid. Anyway, I took my daughter to my parents' house about a week ago. My mom is also vegan, so we were eating our tofu and rice. My daughter has just started solids, so she was also going ham on my plate. My parents' dog ate more than I did. My younger sister, 15, had her friends over. They were having burgers or something and watching me with my daughter. After I ate, I nursed her and one asked if I was vegan. I said yes. She got this weird kinda look and asked if my baby was going to be vegan. I just kinda shrugged because, she could be a dairy-hating fry fiend like her brother or a cheese-aholic like her daddy. Maybe, maybe not. My sister's friend nodded and spoke to me a little more before leaving. I thought it was a little odd but shrugged it off. Teens are weird creatures sometimes. Anyway, unbeknownst to me, this teen had decided I was a crazy vegan crunchy mom. There's a few TikTokers who are apparently stupid about their kids' safety and happen to be breastfeeding vegans. Like yours truly. I thought all was well. My sister sent me a link on the importance of a balanced diet for kids among a few other bits, and eventually I called her. I was like, what the hell? And she started going on about how I was a bad mom. I told her to watch her mouth and she blew up and said I was the one with a crunchy vegan baby. So, turns out, her friends are all convinced my children are terribly abused by my veganism, and because she'd never seen my toddler eat meat, it was clearly true. I told her to calm the fuck down, explained my parenting, yada yada. She then got mad because all her friends think I'm a terrible mom, and I should have been clearer and not just shrugged her friends' question off because I should have known what they would have assumed I meant. I think she's being dramatic. They were worried, wires got crossed, all is well. She's still acting like it's the worst thing in the world. As a side note, my husband was feeling petty, so he went and got ribs for lunch. Filmed little lady eating her first rib. I can now firmly say she will not be a vegan, vegetarian or anything of the sort. Happier than a kid on Christmas, comment 1. NTA. Generally the opinions of 15-year-olds shouldn't be trusted, and it's unfortunate that your sister hasn't learned that yet. She's probably afraid to lose the social currency of being a righteous educator amongst her friends. She had a purpose to brag about and now she doesn't. This is entirely about the teen's social hierarchy and not about you at all. She'll get over it when the next life-shattering drama happens. Comment 2. NTA. Over 20 years ago my daughter started out vegetarian. I had decided she would be one until she could ask to try meat. She did at 5 and has eaten meat ever since. She was on the smaller side and her pediatrician was worried she was malnourished and threatened to call CPS on me. She ran a blood panel on her and even went into the office on a Saturday to get the results. She called me and apologized profusely. My daughter's nutritional panel was completely balanced. My point is, even doctors are ignorant when it comes to nutrition, so teenagers' opinions and knowledge about that matter are absolutely worthless. Keep doing what is right for your family, and when in doubt seek professional guidance and advice. Comment 3. Vegans get a bad rep because there are some rudely passionate vegans out there, but there are rudely passionate Christians and everyone else. But considering you haven't pushed this on your husband and it sounds like you're going to give your kid a choice, you probably aren't included. I'm sure the friends are putting you in the cult group unfairly. Laughing at my sil and telling her I have zero desire to raise her child? I, 44F, am married to my hubby, Jimmy, 48M, for over 2 decades. My parents died suddenly in a car accident 10 years ago. I have a younger sister, Abigail, 39F, with Down syndrome, and Jimmy and I are guardians. Abigail is my sweet angel on earth. When my parents passed, I was a working mother of 3 young kids, helping to build our family business with my husband. At first, Abigail lived with us full-time. Jimmy has always been at my side with her care and loves her to bits. After a few months we realized that my sister needed more attention than we could give her. There was just not enough time in the day. We discussed what would be best for her and decided to put her into a private adult home for special needs people. It's very costly, over $10,000 a month, and comes from our own finances. The facility does all sorts of activities and field trips. She loves her home, her friends and the special days the facility hosts. We are always stopping by to either visit, sign her out on holidays to spend with family, keep her overnight for special sleepovers with my kids and take her on every vacation with us. We never go more than 24 hours without one of us making sure she's okay. Now onto the issue. I have a SIL, Jenny, 42F, who had her first child after years of trying. She's become the typical first-time mom who believes she invented motherhood and is openly opinionated about things she believes other parents fall short on. I mostly ignore her and so does Jimmy. We hosted a barbecue at my house for Labor Day with my Phil, Mel, Jenny, her husband, baby and my kids. Abigail had a planned trip to the zoo and asked if she could go. Of course, we said okay. While we were eating, Jenny turned to me and asked me where Abigail was. Her tone was more accusatory than questioning. I simply didn't want to get into it with Jenny, so I said Abigail wanted to stay at the home. Jenny then turned to her hubby and said, "See, this is why it won't ever happen." My Mill asked Jenny what she was talking about. Jenny, all snarky, said to the whole table, "We did our wills last week and knew these two wouldn't be suitable as guardians of our baby if something happened to us." They tossed her sister into a home rather than be real family to her. I won't let that happen to my child. I didn't let it show, but I was extremely hurt she could say this. Instead of yelling, I laughed at her and said, "Well, that's great news since I have zero desire to raise your kid." More was said, but that's the gist of it. Jenny left with her family calling me nasty swear words as she walked out. I might have said a few swear words myself right back at her. It's been over a month now and Jimmy is still getting nasty texts from Jenny demanding I apologize. My Mill knows she overstepped with her comment but is asking me to be the bigger person and say sorry to keep the peace. I refuse. Comment 1. NTA and Jenny is a major R. If she had actual concerns she should have talked to you or her brother. And if she had half a brain she would see that sometimes living in a group home is better than with family who don't have the time or resources to properly care for or enrich the life of a person with special needs. Sounds like you are still involved in Abigail's life and she's happy. That is what's important. Also, if Sil does feel this way, she doesn't need to make it known and do so in such a hurtful and insulting way. Comment 2. So as the deal you need to be the bigger person? Why is that? My own mother would have told me off if I acted like your Sil did. But your Sil has a strong personality so your Mill wants to take the easy way out. Is it okay she hurt your feelings but not that you hurt her daughters? BTW, it warms my heart Abigail loves her group home. OP comment. This place is amazing. I couldn't say everything because of limits but it's a big building that houses everyone in their own dorm room. They host cooking classes, gym classes, art class, take them swimming to the local YMCA, host talent shows, day trips, movie nights. There isn't a day that goes by Abigail doesn't have something to look forward to. At first it was an adjustment, I felt a lot of guilt that first year. But now she's thriving and getting much more enrichment than simply staying in my house, by herself, without much interaction during the day. Telling my vegan sister she can't serve only vegan food at our family reunion? Every year, our family has a reunion where different members host. This year, it's my younger sister's turn. She's been vegan for about 3 years and is quite passionate about it. We all respect her choices and make sure there are a good variety of vegan options whenever we have family gatherings. When she announced she'll be hosting, She also said that the entire menu would be vegan to align with her beliefs and that it's a chance for the family to try something different. Some family members were excited, but others, including many of the older folks, were pretty upset and felt like they were being forced into her lifestyle, even if just for one meal. I spoke to her privately and asked if she'd be open to including a few non-vegan dishes for those who aren't keen on a full vegan menu. She got quite defensive, saying this was her chance to showcase veganism and that for one meal, everyone can give it a go. I respect her beliefs, but I also think that forcing an entire family to adopt her choices, even if just for one meal, isn't fair. She's now upset with me for not being supportive and says I'm not respecting her choices. Update. Wow. Lots of good thoughts. Thought I would answer a couple questions here so they're not lost in the comments. There is no set rota, the hosting goes to whoever wants to host most, hasn't hosted before, in this case she wanted to host. We have managed to come to a compromise where people can bring their own food as long as it doesn't contain meat, which I think is fair. Just for some more context, she works at a well-known UK fast food place, so has no issues handling, preparing, serving meat, although I get that this can be different at home. Comment 1. Have to go with YTA. It's one meal, and she'll be serving food that everyone can eat, and it's perfectly possible for her to be an amazing host without catering to people's preference for meat dishes. If a friend whose religion forbids pork invites me to their place for breakfast, the fact there's no bacon with my pancakes isn't them forcing their beliefs onto me. But if I asked them to provide bacon because it's my preference, I'd for sure be disrespecting their beliefs. Comment 2. Nah, but this is totally on you guys, not on her. You guys apparently had agreed that she should be the next host and vegans have an ethical stance against purchasing animal products for any reason, so I'm not sure what was expected from this. If you wanted animal products to be served, I don't know why you all agreed on her being allowed to host in the first place. Asking her to pay for and serve animal products is asking her to compromise her morals and her beliefs, it's just SH. Comment 3. I've been a vegan for over 20 years. I wouldn't attempt to cook meat for someone. I wouldn't even know where to start. I'd order food with meat in it, or I would be fine with someone bringing a meat dish they prepared. Everyone has different comfort levels with meat and with vegan food. On the meat eater's side, some vegan food can upset their stomachs if they aren't used to imitation products. On the vegan side, I'm not comfortable handling raw meat, and that's pretty reasonable to not ask her to do it. It's one meal, a compromise shouldn't be this hard. Selling the family heirloom even though I had the legal right to do so? I've recently found myself in a whirlwind of family drama, and I'm honestly unsure if I've done the right thing. My great-grandmother left behind a valuable family heirloom, a vintage grand piano. In her will, she bequeathed it to me specifically, stating that she wanted me to have it due to my deep passion for music. I've been playing the piano since I was a child, and she always appreciated my connection to it. However, my current living situation doesn't allow for such a large item. I live in a small apartment in the city, and the piano has been in storage for the last 5 years, incurring monthly storage fees. Recently, I faced some financial hardships, and after careful consideration, I decided to sell the piano. I used the money to pay off some debts and set aside a portion for my future, possibly for a down payment on a house. When my family found out, they were furious. Many feel that the piano should have remained in the family and passed down to future generations. They argue that its sentimental value far outweighs any monetary gains. I understand their sentiments, but I also felt burdened by the costs of storage and the practicalities of my situation. The piano wasn't being used or enjoyed, and I believed selling it was a beneficial decision for my future. Comment 1. YTA. Not for selling it, but for not telling/asking them first. You knew it had sentimental value to them. You should have told them you didn't want it anymore for the reasons you listed, and then told them if they wanted it to stay in the family, they could buy it from you, or else you'd sell it to someone else. I suspect they wouldn't have bought it and still would have been but then they would have had the chance and it's on them, not you. Comment 2. YTA, you should have informed them before you sold it, or at least offered them the chance to buy it first. You sold a family heirloom right from under them. It was left to you as your grandmother felt you had a passion for music and would get the most enjoyment from it, but you left it in storage and then sold it off like it was nothing. Comment 3. YTA. It was left to you because your grandmother thought you would be the one to cherish it. If you are not that one, then you should find the one who will. Now, you shouldn't be burdened with the storage payments if you don't want the piano. But the right thing to do is to contact the other members of the family and say that you cannot continue to store the piano. Offer it to anyone else in the family who is willing to keep it around for the next generation. If no one took you up on the offer, then you could sell it with a clear conscience. But it appears you never gave anyone else in the family a shot.
Outshining the bride. So I, 27F, am a Black African woman. I'm living and working in Germany for a fixed period on secondment. While here, I became quite friendly with a colleague, 60F, and she invited me to her daughter's wedding. I was excited as I've never been to a white wedding. I asked if there was a dress code/color scheme to adhere to since it wasn't specified on the invite. I was told the code is dress to impress. Bet. Day of the wedding, I understand the assignment. I wear my traditional wear, which is really beautiful and obviously not German. The garment is green, so NP problem there. Also, I thought. I get a lot of questions and compliments at the wedding, which I genuinely downplay, because it's not my day. My colleague seems colder than usual, but I pay it no mind since she's mother of bride, and could be preoccupied. The bride is downright rude to me, but again I give her grace. I congratulate her and thank her for including me, and I get a tight, neutral face in response. I keep to the edges of the room as the music isn't really my vibe, and I'm just observing how European weddings work. I leave around 8 after 5 hours and go home before the wedding finishes. Monday I walked into whispers in the office, people actually strangely and more reserved than usual. An office friend pulls me aside and fills me in, bride's mother is fuming. My outfit was too extravagant, OTT and inappropriate. I drew attention from the bride and commandeered the room. I was rude and disrespectful. She's told people all about it, apparently. I approach Mob and ask to speak, but she says she has nothing to say to me. I ask her why she has SDHTK say everyone else about me, but not to me, and she calls me an insolent child. I explain to anyone who scolds me that this was my first white people wedding. I specifically asked what to do where, and followed the guidelines. Where I'm from, there's no such thing as outshines G the bride. Weddings are a fashion show, and a chance to wear your best and brightest clothes. They told me this isn't Africa, which was racially coded. ND people here have manners. I laughed and told that person to go to hell, so she's telling people I lack remorse for my behavior. Comment 1. NTA, you don't tell someone dressed to impress and then get mad they impressed. Not gonna touch the Africa comment. As a fellow black woman with African family, I really want to fixate in that. Weddings are legit just fashion shows in most black families, and even in white families. When one of my aunts married her white husband, all of his side were just as done up as her side. You asked about the dress code and she gave you it. If you supposedly outshines the bride, who sounds hella insecure TBH, then that's Mob's fault. Your co-workers are rude as hell. We have manners, my A. Comment 2. NTA. She knows you're African, and now the problem is that she can either blame herself or you. Somewhere deep down she must realize that her answer dress to impress was inadequate and that, this might mean something different to someone from literally a different continent. Her daughter is angry at her, so she can either choose to accept that her vague answer caused the problem and admit that she is at fault, or shove the blame onto you. To look better to her daughter and anyone else who noticed, she is blaming you. If the office culture becomes hostile, go to HR and give them a factual account. Comment 3. NTA. That said, I am from Germany and you probably would have stolen the show in a much simpler dress, just for being a black person. Look, I am from rural South Germany. I went to Florida at the age 32 and that was when I saw a black person face to face for the first time in my life. Could have been the same for some people in that wedding. Of course that is no excuse, just more of an explanation that you probably would have not won this either way.